Me now on the Westshore Hotline is Alex Zietlow from the Charlotte Observer. Alex, I'm Mike. I'm not sure we've spoken before. If we have, and I don't remember that right now, my apologies, but it's good to talk to you today.
It's great talking to you. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome. Panthers at Bills Saturday. Are you coming up?
Yes, sir.
All right. You'll be seeing some kind of history with the new stadium. I'm guessing you're aware of that. It'll be a big day out there for a preseason game especially.
Absolutely. That is one of the highlights of the trip, honestly, that I'm really looking forward to. Obviously, we're both going to be watching the starters play for the first time of 2026, but I'm really excited to check out. I'm really excited to check out the new stadium. There's been a lot of discussion about it, at least that has come all the, on the internet that's made us all the way down to North Carolina. So I'm excited to see it for myself.
I mean, maybe I'm biased here. I'd like to think I'm somewhat objective. I don't think it's, a big deal what's been said so far. I mean, you have some seats that are, people are upset that they don't have a clear, unobstructed view of the field. That seems reasonable. I don't want to scoff at that. But by all accounts otherwise, Alex, it's kind of spectacular, this place. So steep, new. For us, it's more than 50 years. So I bet you'll be impressed.
Absolutely. I'm very much looking forward to it. And, of course, the Panthers got their own, stadium renovations that they're going through. They haven't had a fully overhauled stadium renovation since Bank of America Stadium opened in 1996. So the team obviously began in 1995, but they played their first inaugural season at Clemson University, fun fact, right. And then they moved over to what is now Bank of America Stadium in 96. So it's been like 30 years for us in Charlotte as well. So I'm excited to step into, like a high-tech, state-of-the-art place and get the show on the road.
And there they were in their second year in the NFC Championship, out of nowhere, the Panthers. Absolutely. With Dom Capers. Well, Alex, you mentioned the starters playing. That's a story here, too, today, that the Bills are going to do that. New head coach Joe Brady, Carolina ties, expected to play everybody he has that's healthy. Is Carolina expected to do the same?
Yes, head coach Dave Canales said so earlier this week. Specifically, Bryce Young is going to play about 10 to 20 snaps, depending on how that all goes. If it's 3 and outs, then I'll probably keep the offense out there for another series or two. But they want to see Bryce Young out there. And that also means they want to see Teteroa McMillan out there. They want to see Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, all their playmakers. They're also expecting to start the majority of their offensive line. Some of their offensive line is a bit beat up right now. You got a left guard in Damian Lewis who's coming back from a calf injury, so they might be a little bit more delicate along the offensive line. But expect all the starters. The one caveat is Chuba Hubbard, the Panthers' starting running back, actually just got MRI results early this morning saying that he has a hamstring injury, and he is now week to week with that injury. So the starting running back for the Panthers will be Jonathan Brooks, second-round pick from 2024. He has not come close to playing a full season. In fact, he's only played 9 quarters of NFL football. So that'll also be a treat for Panthers fans and really NFL fans alike who are curious to see Jonathan Brooks play. Jonathan will be out there on Saturday afternoon.
My hand is certainly up. As a fantasy player, he's been one of the most interesting debates of the summer. What was it your opinion, or is it your opinion, that apart from an injury, Hubbard would be their RB1, or was Brooks moving in on that?
It is of my opinion that Chuba is RB1, and it's kind of unquestionable for a variety of reasons at this point. One, Jonathan Brooks has yet to prove himself as an NFL player. He's got to prove that not only can he be healthy, but can he be as explosive and as sure-handed, because he came out of college as a really great receiving threat out of the backfield as well. Mm-hmm. Can he be as explosive and sure-handed and all these things that he was in college and the NFL? Hasn't proven that yet. So Chuba, injury notwithstanding, would be the RB1 at this point. Also, the Panthers, I don't think that this is kind of permeated into the nation's consciousness quite yet. But the Panthers really value Chuba as a leader in the locker room, as a leader on that offense. You know, he's probably the most important voice on offense. Maybe outside of Bryce Young, but of course Bryce Young calls all the plays and gets all the plays in for the offense. So, it's really hard to understate Chuba's importance. And then, of course, 2 years ago he had a 1,000-yard rushing season. So he can still be quite productive too. Last year he suffered some injuries and stuff like this, but that's a really long way of telling you that I think that Chuba would be RB1 at this point. But hey, if Jonathan Brooks really lights it up at the beginning of the year, all bets are off.
Right. Look out then. Yeah, I have no trouble believing, agreeing with your analysis on this. One thing that I was taken aback by 2 years ago with Hubbard is that they paid him in the middle of the season. Like, that's a pretty good sign that the team really likes the player, and it was good running back money. That's changed a lot, somewhat in the last couple of years. Some of the stars at the position are really getting paid. But, man, for a team, and Carolina wasn't winning, and they went and paid Hubbard like they did, that's a pretty good compliment.
Yeah, I think that was just a function of a variety of things, but the big thing was that the Panthers weren't very good at the time, and they wanted to lock down some players for the long term who want to be in Carolina, who are great culture additions, great in the locker room, and they also want to reward players who stick with it, the system, work really hard, and then ultimately play well. When that first contract kind of happened, a lot of people were like, whoa, okay, so the Panthers are going to commit to another long-term running back. They did that previously with Christian McCaffrey, and that was to varying results. But I think this was a move of, we are in the process of rebuilding, and in order to have a successful rebuild, you need some players that know what Carolina's all about, know what the Panthers are trying to build, and can kind of help them reach that goal. Mm-hmm. And ultimately it has been a pretty successful investment up until this point. Again, 1,000-yard rushing season 2 years ago. Chuba, when he was healthy last year, was also really good. That final playoff game, I think he scored 2 touchdowns. I might be stretching my memory on that, but he's like Chuba's an underrated guy. I've said it here on local radio shows too. Like, Chuba, I know all the attention goes to Jonathan Brooks, but Chuba is really underrated and really important to this locker room.
You're right that Hubbard had 2 rushing touchdowns against the Rams in what turned out to be a pretty wild card game in the playoffs in January. Mike Schopp here. Sorry, Alex. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is off today. Alex Zietlow, our guest from the Charlotte Observer. So let's talk about Bryce Young. You seem to have an informed perspective on maybe what the public, in terms of NFL fans or even media might maybe have right about the Panthers when we're talking about Hubbard here. What is it about Young then? Is there maybe some more of this where you think there might be a misunderstanding of, like, basically either how good he is or what the organizational commitment to him might be? What do you see?
I actually think that the national conversation around Bryce is a bit more aligned with the local conversation about Bryce. The real thing is that, and a key executive for the Carolina Panthers kind of went out right and said this earlier this offseason, that Bryce's ceiling is still unknown. Last year he struggled at the beginning of the year and then had some flashes of brilliance. He broke the Panthers' all-time single game passing record against the Atlanta Falcons. He threw for over 400 yards. That broke Cam Newton's record, and everyone nationally was like, "Oh my gosh, Bryce is turning a corner." Blah blah blah.
Right. And
then the next week, he kind of couldn't put together a great week, and that ended up in a loss. I can't remember exactly what that following week was, but that was also that was kind of what the Panthers' season was last year. One remarkable performance, and then kind of followed up by a letdown performance. And so Bryce's next step is to find consistency, however that looks, whatever that may result in. And if he can kind of find that, then the Panthers are willing. This is just my understanding. The Panthers would be smart to try to find a way to lock down Bryce Young for the future. I understand that having a quarterback is really expensive. Buffalo Bills fans understand that having a quarterback that they really like, that they can really count on, is expensive. It's $50 to $55 million average per year. I get that. And I'm not saying that Bryce Young should be paid like Josh Allen, but I'm just saying this Panthers fan base has gone through several years, like a really long time, without figuring out the quarterback problem. And I think that this front office thinks that Bryce Young could be the answer to that. And so they're going to give him every opportunity to prove them right. And this is just a massive year for Bryce Young. And so every data point that you can kind of glob onto is important. And that's why Saturday is important for many Rays, but that's a huge reason why, because it's another data point in the Bryce Young in the Bryce Young situation.
I might want to get back to what the dilemma the Panthers might be facing with him as we talk. But you talk about consistency, and I would say, like, he has to have more good games. Like these.
Yeah.
If to use Allen as an extreme example, of course, but he was pretty much undeniable, and you got to a point where there was no question, like they had to do it. But you have examples like Tua in Miami and other guys through the years where, damn, I mean, the team is really in a tough spot. So I would think for fans at least, if not for the organization, I mean, he had 3 games last year over 206 passing yards, right? Like, if it's that many, I think it is. So hopefully we still have you because your phone sounds different. But, I mean, you got to have more upside from Bryce Young, not just consistency, in my opinion. You need both.
I couldn't agree more, and that's why the front office went out and said his ceiling is unknown. And this is important. I will say I talked to backup quarterback Kenny Pickett earlier this offseason about Bryce Young and all the ways in which Kenny is helping Bryce and enriching conversations in that quarterback room, et cetera, et cetera. And Kenny said something that I thought was quite interesting, that it's kind of widely understood in the NFL that the third year in the same system is the magic year for a quarterback. And that is the year that Bryce Young is embarking on now. So, because if you remember, year 1 was the Frank Reich single season in which Frank got fired 11 games into the whole season. And then they brought in Dave Canales, and so Dave Canales has been here for 2 seasons, and he's about to enter his third. And if Bryce can figure something out in this third season that he couldn't in the last 2, I think it just seems to make sense. Year 1, you saw some flashes of Bryce Young's brilliance kind of toward the end of the year after he was benched, after all that. And then in year 2, you saw it a bit more often, but it was wildly inconsistent. The Panthers were playing well and playing poorly pretty much in metronomic succession. Win one game, lose the next. Mm-hmm. And so it just seems to make sense that this third year in this Dave Canales system will be Bryce's year to kind of shine and really break out onto the scene. But, I hate to say it, I was saying similar things at this point last year as well. So, and that obviously didn't happen. So, it still remains to be seen. Everything starts on Saturday, though. So, this is certainly a preseason game that Panthers Nation will definitely tune in for.
Hey, Alex, it seems like the consensus is that Young has the right coach for this. That Canales he's qualified. He's had some success. I mean, with Mayfield, and even since he's been in Carolina going into year 3. So, I mean, is it too obvious? Like they have a coach that has that kind of credibility, where if Young doesn't hit, then it's, sometimes a quarterback, Darnold and Todd Bowles maybe, or something, going back a little bit, where it's a defensive coach and you wonder if the teaching is right or the opportunity is really right for the player. But Young wouldn't really have that excuse, I think.
I mean, it is actually a fair point. That's a big reason why David Tepper brought in Dave Canales in the first place, because he was kind of known as this quarterback whisperer, not only, rejuvenating Baker Mayfield's career in Tampa Bay when Dave Canales was the offensive coordinator, but also rejuvenating Geno Smith's career when Dave was all the way in Seattle with the Seahawks. So that's a big reason why Dave got the job in the first place. And so, but of course, this is also Dave Canales' first head coaching job. This is Brad Idzik's first time being an offensive coordinator. This is Brad Idzik's first time being the main play caller, because the Panthers shifted play calling duties from Canales to Idzik earlier this offseason, and Idzik's been he called the plays for the Hall of Fame game on Thursday night. So you're never going to have a perfect system where you can kind of control all these other variables and just like isolate one and see, okay, that's the problem. Okay, this is the problem. That's just not – if that were the case, then the NFL would be no fun, and we wouldn't be able to talk about this sort of thing in the newspaper or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think you're making a salient point that this program has really given Bryce so many opportunities and so many tools to shine. You got the offensive rookie of the year in Tedero McMillan on one side. You've spent a lot of draft capital on the offensive side of the football. Last night, you literally just went and got Darren Waller. I understand that He is 33 years old, but like this tight end room was kind of considered a pretty steady, pretty like what's the proper word? Pretty solid position group, and you go and you add in a player who might just be tight end one now. So they are doing everything they can to help Bryce Young succeed. And so I think your point makes a lot of sense. And this is the charge for Bryce Young. Find a way to be consistent, because your fate, not only in the Carolinas, but also in the NFL, your fate is up to you now. And that's kind of the messaging that we have been hearing from this Panthers front office.
Alex, do you think Waller could play Saturday?
No, he did not. He wasn't even on the practice field today. Okay. He has to do some onboarding stuff and also pass a physical today. We'll probably find out that he passed the physical in the NFL Daily Transaction Wire, which comes out in about an hour, I believe. So we'll probably find that out. But I just think it'll be a little too quick of a turnaround. But I do envision Darren Waller playing at some point later this preseason.
Okay. It's an interesting bet. I mean, they have a solid room, as you put it, but also you have the Brazel injury, and you're trying to do everything you can for this quarterback with now Hubbard hurt. I'm sure it's not a big investment, Waller. How about wide receiver? So McMillan looks like he could be a star. Coker is a popular mid-round fantasy pick. Like there have been flashes with Coker and the Cokeheads, right? And then also there's a little bit of buzz on Leggett after all this time, after a couple of years. So how good a room is that?
Well, it's certainly a deep room because you got Tedero McMillan, Xavier Leggett, and Jalen Coker, like you said. And then you got a whole bunch of receivers that I'm sure the really, really locked-in NFL fan would recognize some of these names. Among them, John Mechie. He came over to the Panthers this offseason, obviously, broke records at Alabama with Bryce Young, and so he's kind of fighting for a roster spot right now. And then let's see. I guess you do also have some unknown guys. This guy named Jasim Reed has had a really, really great camp, and then you can kind of go on down the list from there. But the receiving room could really use some explosiveness. They could really use some speed. That's what the Panthers invested in the third round when they picked Chris Brazel, and now he's out for the year. So if there is one thing this offense is lacking, it is a deep threat, particularly on the outside, and that was supposed to be something that Chris Brazel could furnish for this offense.
Right.
So they still are lacking at. They still need to find a way to do that. Maybe Darren Walling could be part of that answer, or maybe Xavier, a new and improved Xavier Legette can kind of be part of that answer too. But that's something that they're going to have to figure out in the first couple weeks, because that's still a huge question mark.
Alex, last thing. We haven't talked about the defense at all. Mid-grade unit last year, 15th in points allowed. How good should the defense be for Carolina?
Well, if you were to ask me right before training camp, I would have said that this defense could be a top 10 defense, and I wouldn't be shy about that at all.
But injuries.
They went out and added this guy, Jalen Phillips, who was one of the top free agent pass rushers on the market this past March, obviously coming from Miami and from Philadelphia last year. And so he was really good. And then they also went out and got probably the best inside linebacker last year in Devin Lloyd. He led the position in interceptions, is just raved about as a great blitzer as well. And so between Jalen Phillips and Devin Lloyd, those two guys would have brought a lot of explosiveness to this Panthers defense. The only thing that's really giving me pause as of right now is that their second-year outside linebacker and pass rusher, Nick Scorton, went down with a really devastating ACL tear the first day of training camp. And he was supposed to be the guy who's lining up on the other side of Jalen Phillips. And so now this pass rushing question is all in question again.
Right.
But I still think the Panthers defense could be pretty good. They got this guy in Derek Brown who is constantly low-key getting snubbed from all of these Pro Bowl and All-Pro lists, whereas he is also raved about by his peers as one of the best run stoppers in the NFL. So, I mean, when you kind of put everything – oh, and then, of course, you got J.C. Horn and Mike Jackson as two of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. At least that's what Matt Stafford said right before he went and played them in the playoff game. So, like, they have a lot of talent. It's just a question of, like, they also do have some weak spots as well. And now with Nick Scorton's injury, that I think a lot of what they were building kind of gets suppressed a little bit. My enthusiasm, at least, gets suppressed a little bit. So, if we're talking like ranking, I think I would say they would be a top 20 defense, which I know is not the hottest take, but I mean it's still a huge improvement from what they were 2 years ago when they gave up the most points in NFL history or whatever it was. So, yeah. So, okay, sorry for a lot of words for not really saying anything profound right there, but that's essentially where the defense stands right now.
There are stars on that side. Very good. Alex Zietlow, Charlotte Observer. Have a great time up here, Alex. Thanks for giving us so much insight and your time today.
Absolutely. I can't wait to try the wings.
Let's go. I mean, you can't go wrong, I would say. Thanks, Alex. Enjoy Western New York.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
As you may know, I'm not the guy here to sort of steer him in certain directions when it comes to wings. I'm really not that particular. I know a lot of people obsess about that, and that's fine. I've got my own obsessions. They're different than yours, perhaps. All right, the Panthers on Saturday. Might want to talk